So if you watch Moana, they depict that crazy creature at the end.
Excuse me. The crazy? Let's use a different adjective.
Okay. Sorry.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like flowers.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring. So, my phone is broken, sort of. And the screen is broken, but not bad enough to get fixed. I'm sure people have this experience all the time. But what's so interesting about my phone being broken this way is that it has a very interesting quirk. My Pandora keeps turning on at random times.
I don't think that's because of your screen. I've told them 1,000,000 times. It's just because your screen is broken. Unless the icon is underneath where the screen is broken.
I don't know. It keeps coming up.
It does. It has a mind of its own. It's kind of creepy.
But what's really interesting is it chooses its own radio station every time. Like it chooses a different one and starts playing a random song. And it's kind of like I have a guy with one of those like sound effect keyboards following me around all day and just giving me random things. And it's wanting to chime in and tell me how I should feel at different parts of my day.
That's why John hasn't actually looked into turning Pandora off the right way. Because I think you actually secretly enjoy being followed around by sound effects.
It's kind of fun, actually. Most of the time, it's really interesting. I'm eating lunch and all of a sudden, the Jackson 5 pops up. Or watching a movie and Bon Jovi happens to come on the radio randomly. It's usually nice unless I forget to turn the volume down while I'm sleeping. And then I wake up in the middle of the night to some random track. It's pretty fun. But the reason I brought this up is because as I sat down to prepare for the Hawaii Volcanoes episode, which is what we're doing today, the fun facts for Hawaii volcanoes, my Pandora immediately chimed in and told me how I should be feeling about this park.
Okay.
And it wasn't positive, honestly.
Really? Is it about things blowing up and earthquakes and magma?
No, it was at the end. If you've ever seen the Lord of the Rings movies, the end of the Two Towers, the very end of it, when Gollum's song starts to play after Gollum comes back into Smeagol and you realize, oh crap, Frodo and Sam are heading off with a serial killer. This really haunting, creepy song. And that's what popped into my Pandora as I was sitting down to listen to this. Where once was light, now darkness falls. Where once was love, love is no more.
Have I heard that song?
It's so creepy.
I don't think I've heard it.
I could sing it, but it would be weird.
The words are creepy enough. No.
It's really creepy.
Okay. You don't need to sing it.
Yes, I was going to. I was so close, but I held back. But I was like, this isn't the vibe I want for this episode. This is such a fun episode. And so I just thought I'd bring that up because...
Although, maybe a little foreboding, because I would say out of all the national parks, this one's pretty dark in certain ways.
Yeah.
In fact, even 2 hours after we recorded the Exploring Hawaii Volcanoes episode that we released a few weeks ago, they all of a sudden, there was a ton of earthquakes there, and they, recorded a ton of seismic activity and had to close down the Chain of Craters Road, and they, mayhem! And it's just we just barely recorded, and then it changed again, which happens every time we try to talk about Hawaii volcanoes, I swear.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's true. And so maybe my phone was correct in that you'll have your periods of happy Jackson 5, But every once in a while, you should make sure you have that Gollum sneaking behind you feeling. Because you never know when a subterranean lava flow is going to pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah. Or an earthquake while you're hiking the Kilauea Trail.
Right.
Which is terrifying.
Which could prompt a lot of things to happen.
Yes.
So maybe it was right.
Yeah.
So
Pandora's been pretty spot on. Because this really, I can vouch for this. This really does happen to him a lot. Like, we'll just be sitting there talking, and then his radio station will just start up and start playing a song. And it's usually pretty funny. So this is a real life thing, but John doesn't fix it because he doesn't want to.
Because it's kind of fun.
Yeah, he likes having a soundtrack to his life.
It's true. Like, I have my own sound effects guy.
Yeah.
It's
That
awesome.
sounds like you. Sounds like something that would be important to you.
Yes. But to counteract this, I did also listen to Moana ambiance music for forever while I prepared for this. And it was great. And I'm really excited to talk about it. So let's jump in to the Hawai'i Volcanoes fun facts.
I'm so excited because
so
I know some stuff.
You should.
But I don't know a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
We're going to jump around a little bit from maybe if you've listened to a bunch of fun facts episode, this one might not follow the exact train of thought that you're probably thinking it should. We'll jump around a bit, but it should be so fun. So we're going to start with some of the most basic things, the questions. How, what, where, when, why. We're going to start with where. And we're going to kind of go back to figure out, okay, the where of Hawai'i volcanoes. Did you realize that Hawaii is located more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass?
I did. And
it's so far.
That is because I used to live in Hawaii.
Yes.
And I got major claustrophobia while I was there. Because of that thing.
Yeah.
It was like we had a tsunami warning come through when I was there, and they're all like, get to the high ground. And it's like, the high ground here is 15 feet above sea level, and if anything happens, I'm never getting off this island. I'm going to die here.
I know.
There's nowhere to go. Like, just give me some mountains. Let me get somewhere where I can hide from all the disasters that, and things happen. And it's just like, if anything were to happen and the airport couldn't run, or boats, it takes forever to get out there by boat. And it's just, I actually had like full on claustrophobia.
It was weird.
Being on an island. You
told me that before we actually visited the Hawaiian Islands the first time. And I was like, not a chance. For the first couple of days, a lot of times Ash and I will drive the park roads that go along the perimeter of the island. I did not get that feeling until I realized we did the whole island. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is nuts. And as I was like looking at Google Maps or whatever, preparing for this, I was like, oh my gosh, there really is nothing close to Hawaii.
There's nothing out there.
Los Angeles is pretty much one of the closest things, and it's still 2,500 miles away. South America, Asia, most of the things in the Pacific, 3,000 to 4,000 miles. Australia is more than 5,000 miles away. Just nothing is close. Now, this isn't the fun fact, but the Hawaiian Islands are the most geographically isolated group of islands on Earth.
Really?
Yes. More so even than the Galapagos Islands and things like that.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
If you don't have claustrophobia.
Now, because of this, just about everything that live on the islands of Hawaii had to grow and develop in near complete isolation from the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
Because the islands are so small, some of the fun facts about the national park apply to the island chain as a whole. And so it's really kind of unique that way. But this is fun fact number 1. Because life on the islands evolved in near complete isolation from the rest of the world, over 90% of native plants and animals found in Hawaii are only found in the Hawaiian Islands.
Cool.
90%.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
Like I mentioned the Galapagos Islands before, which is known for Darwin's theory of evolution and everything like that. The Hawaiian Islands, so the amount of creatures and plants and everything that are specific to this island chain is even greater than the specificity to the Galapagos Islands.
So he should have gone to Hawaii.
He should have. Yes, exactly.
Except it's so darn far.
He might not have made it.
Yeah.
It's really far. And we'll talk about this a little bit, but anything that came here, you'll find birds that you won't find anywhere else. You'll find insects. You'll find some marine life that you won't find other places. But everything that lives here had to, in some way or another, make an epic journey to get here.
Yeah.
Either voluntarily or involuntarily.
Yeah. Like in somebody's stomach. Something.
Exactly. Like plants, a bird migrates and then poops out the seed and boom,
Right.
you got something there.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm just imagining like some type of a bug or a creature that gets marooned on some type of, I don't know, driftwood or something like that, survives on the driftwood for forever until it washes up on the Hawaiian Islands somehow.
Well, and you have to remember, like, when you look at pictures of Hawaii now, it's so green and lush and beautiful until you go over to the Big Island. But really, I mean, I think sometimes we forget these are volcanic islands. They started off as just volcanic rock. It's not like they were like already had trees and ferns and all the stuff on them. And I think that's really evident when you go to the Big Island, because that's the youngest of the islands. That's the one that's still forming. That's the one that's still over the hotspot.
Right.
And you get to, especially not the Hilo side, which is closer to Hawai'i Volcanoes, but when you're on the Kona side especially, and you fly in and you can just see there is nothing in some of these areas. It's just lava rock. It's crazy.
So what's cool about what you mentioned just there is you'll have sections of jungle and then you'll have lava and then you'll have sections of jungle. And so even within an island, you'll have an island of life.
Well, and you're on the Kona side, which is very still volcanic. It's still black sand beaches and lots of lava rock and just very harsh circumstances. I mean, it's not like super pretty per se.
Right.
But it reminds you that, oh, there's like some huge volcanoes on this island that are still erupting.
Yes.
And you can see like the lava flows come down in between like the neighborhoods and stuff. It's like, oh, there's that rift zone where all the lava comes when this mountain erupts. And it's crazy. But then you go over to the Hilo side, which is, as I mentioned, closer to Hawai'i volcanoes, and it's 1,000% different.
Oh, yeah.
Because that side is the side that has most of the rainfall and not as much of the lava flows down that direction. It's like you'll see just vast differences between even just the two sides of the island.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even such a small place, you'll see such variations.
Yeah.
Of life in different situations, and a lot depends on the volcanoes, which we'll get to, which is so cool. But one thing that's really kind of a blessing and a curse about having so many plants and animals that are so specific to these islands is that when they're gone, they're gone. And so that's why a lot of the creatures that live here and a lot of the plants that live here, a lot of them are kind of threatened, and there's no backup population somewhere else for us to be like, oh man, we'll take care of this. But if luckily there's this other population here that we can use to reintroduce back in later.
Right.
And so because there's so much specificity here on the Hawaiian Islands, you've got the dark lava cricket that can only be found on new lava flows on the island. Or you've got the happy face spider, or you've got one of only two butterflies that are actually native to Hawaii, the Kamehameha butterfly. When one of these is gone, if we're not careful and one of these disappears, it's gone forever. And so that's one of the coolest blessings and curses of the Hawaiian Islands. But being so isolated, you really have to be careful about the life that's here.
So on that note, I don't know if you're going to mention this, but almost every time I get on the Hawai'i Volcanoes website, they have like an alert that says, watch out for the nene, the Hawaiian goose that is in this park.
Yep.
Be really careful not to drive too fast. Like make sure that you're just being really aware. And I hate geese. I hate geese so much. They're the worst birds.
It's true. Yes.
They have like dog-sized poops and they're mean and they take over all the sections of the beach or the lake. And
Ash has had some bad experiences with geese.
I hate geese so much. But anyway, so they have this. I think it's the Nene.
I think it's the Nene.
I don't think it's Nene. So, and that one, its population is rebounding, but it's still really low. So,
right.
Specifically to Hawaii volcanoes, when you're planning a trip here, there's a really good chance you're going to see either signs or alerts or something while you're there or on the website beforehand saying, watch out for this Nene. Like, be super careful for the Hawaiian goose.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of those creatures. There were, at one point, I think 7 different species of this type of goose or variations of this goose. And now I think there's only one.
Yeah.
And so they are very careful. And they've kind of admitted on the National Park website that this goose probably won't ever live without some type of human support.
Yeah.
And so we do need to be careful. Don't feed the geese. Drive carefully when you're driving around Hawaii. And this goose will have a chance. But besides the goose, there's also a few other birds that are super cool. You've got the apapane, I don't know how to say it. Or you've got the Kaya Polauau or the Iiwi, which 3 different kinds of birds that you can find in Hawaii volcanoes, usually in the higher elevations.
Okay.
But they just have beautiful colored feathers. But 2 of those, the last 2 I mentioned, which I won't try to pronounce again, those ones have like a hooked beak.
Okay.
And one of them, the Iiwi, a lot of people refer to it as the bird that has the Swiss Army knife beak. Because it's so like sharp and curved. And so you can find these in the higher elevations, but they are known for flying really far distances around the Hawaiian Islands to find the native plants that they eat the fruit of.
Interesting.
And so they're super cool. And but they also rely on something that's native, not introduced, and not invasive.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting that way.
The bird with the Swiss Army knife mouth. What do you call it? Sounds like my worst nightmare. I'm just saying, I have such bad experiences with birds. That sounds terrible.
These ones are small and...
Cave swallows are small and they still pooped directly in my eye at Carlsbad Caverns. So...
That's true.
It doesn't have to be a big bird for it to wreak havoc upon my life.
You just grab several of these birds and turn them evil, and that could be pretty...
Yes, I do not like birds very much. Although, side note, we've started using the Merlin Bird app. And if you don't have it, go check it out. It's super cool. I think that like pretty firmly puts me in like my middle age era. I feel like now that I'm excited about like capturing bird noises on my phone, like it can record the noises you hear and tell you what kind of bird it is, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty darn cool. It's awesome.
It does make me feel a little bit older than my mid-30s.
Oh, look at the bird, dear. Yes, look at that. Oh, that bird is so pretty. That's awesome.
But anyway, so I am getting into birding a little bit more, but I still like to keep a far enough distance that they can't do anything to me.
Right, but some of the birds here, you'll see them coming because their colors are so bright.
Yeah.
So you can take cover.
I'll know when to run.
Yes, exactly. Like Crowbine from Dunland, if anybody catches that reference. Let's move on to fun fact number 2, because we've been talking about some awesome creatures that live on the island. How about the people that live on the island?
Yes. They're the best people in the world.
They
oh my
are.
gosh. I love Polynesians so much.
Yes. I grew up in a part of Utah that had a fair amount of Polynesians, but Ash actually lived in Hawaii, and we just love Polynesian people, whether you're from Samoa or Tonga or Hawaii, but Ash lived in Hawaii.
I know. Well, yeah, but most of my friends were Tongan.
Oh, they were?
Uh-huh.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And one of my really good friends is from Samoa. She still lives there now. She doesn't live in Hawaii anymore. But yeah,
Well, your mom lived in Hawaii too.
My mom went to high school in Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah, we've got some weird connections there. And we travel back a lot. I would say more than most people for vacation too. So...
That's so fun.
I don't know. We spend a lot of time there, but the people are so kind and generous if they like you.
Yes.
So, and they usually like you. I will say that they usually like you. Sometimes it takes a minute to warm up, and especially if you're a tourist. Sometimes that is not their favorite, which can you blame them?
Right.
A lot of people don't like tourists in their own.
A little bit more of the Lilo and Stitch view of tourists. The guy with a super sunburn and anyways.
Well, you do see that a lot. But yeah, I mean, just some of the most kind and loving and amazing, generous people ever.
Great singing voices.
Great singing voices. Like so much life and energy. I feel like actually like in conjunction with just like how the islands were formed, and especially the Big Island where it's just like keeping you on your toes all the time and you never know what's going to happen. And there's just like so much like energy underneath it. And I feel like the people are a lot the same way for me too, where it's just like, they're always fun.
It is.
You know, it's just fun and you feel loved and they love big and they love loud. And I love it.
Yeah. Our son has been reading the Chronicles of Narnia book, and he came in to talk to me after he read a part of what I think is the first book, where he's like, Dad, Aslan sang Narnia into existence. And I was like, dude, that's super Hawaii.
Yeah.
That is definitely Hawaii.
If any people could sing something into existence, it would be the Polynesians in Hawaii.
Oh, they have such a rich heritage and a great culture. But fun fact number 2 is that Native Hawaiians have been on the islands of Hawaii for about 1,000 years. So literally they've been here for a millennia. But in order to get here, they had to sail over 2,400 miles of open ocean. And here's my favorite part of the fun fact. And they did it just like how they depict in the movie Moana.
I know, I was going to say, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
They sailed here in massive double-hulled canoes.
It's so cool.
Oh my gosh.
And like, how would they even know? This is what I always wonder. Like, how would they even know that they were going to find anything?
Right.
Did they? Or did they just say, let's go. Let's just see what's out there. And they lucked out by finding something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how do people find those tiny islands in the middle of the ocean?
I don't know. The first people that did it, it's like goes into that song I think that you were singing, Away, Away. We set a course to find a brand new island everywhere we roam. We keep our island in our mind, and when it's time to find home, we know the way.
That's a different song, but it's fine. That's not the one I was singing.
Right, exactly. I've been singing that one for a while. But these voyagers were incredible people with amazing navigation skills. There are these petroglyphs that you can see along the Chain of Craters Road that I think are super cool to see, but I feel like I fall prey to this sometimes. Sometimes when you see and look at these petroglyphs, you make the mistake of judging the sophistication of a society based solely on the few remaining markings left visible on rock.
Right.
Hundreds of years after the people and most of their civilization are gone. I know I do that sometimes. I think I did that kind of along these lines as well sometimes but these people were amazing. They arrived on volcanic rock and they made it home. They flourished here. And despite volcanoes trying to kill them and resources being limited and often only being able to live off and grow with what they brought with them on their canoes, these people knew the stars, man, and they could navigate around the ocean and find a tiny speck of an island, visit it, trade, and then make it back home.
It's crazy.
It blows me away.
It really is crazy.
There's a spot on one of the volcanoes in Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park called Pahu Mana Mana. It is basically like the Polynesian Stonehenge.
Oh, cool.
It's so neat.
On a volcano?
Yeah. It's not a spot that they allow you to visit, but they've been kind of studying it for a while. And the reason I think it's so neat is because what the scientists kind of tested and discovered. They wanted to see if it was a navigation tool. And so you've got all these stones kind of set up in a certain way. And they sent some of their researchers along with some native Hawaiian navigators on a voyage to kind of test some of their hypotheses. And they followed the directions that the stone structures pointed to using only traditional navigation tools. And they found their way to their intended destination.
It's so crazy. It's so cool.
It's so cool. I don't know. There's just so much going on here. But before we move on, I wanted to encourage anybody listening to do something, and I promise you it will blow your mind and enhance your love of this place. If you can, if you're not driving, open up your phone and have it open up to Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever you have and type in Hawaii, and it will bring up the islands, in a big blue ocean surrounding it, and you'll probably see some roads. Zoom out and out and out as far as you can go, and eventually you'll see North America, Asia, Australia. You probably won't even be able to see Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And that will kind of give you an idea about how brave and courageous these voyagers were and how amazing it was that they figured out navigation through this giant big blue wet thing. It just blows me away because it's 5,500 miles across from LA to Japan. And it's so empty.
And Hawaii is just right there.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Which is why when that explorer song that we were talking about, as they travel around the ocean, I would have never been able to find any islands anywhere. And
I don't think I'd find anything, and I also don't think I'd find my way back to where I came from. Sounds dangerous.
Exactly. Oh, so anyways, I wanted to point this out because the native Hawaiians are a special people.
The other thing about Native Hawaiians is they have a lot of really cool history. And so, especially when you're in like Hawai'i volcanoes and stuff, a lot of it, we all know like the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology and stuff like that. Well, they have like their set of deities and stories that go along with that and stuff. And Pele is the goddess of fire, like the volcano. And you'll hear references to that as you're in Hawaii and especially Hawai'i volcanoes in that area because it's just so active. There's so much going on. It's like, oh, Pele's mad today. Anyway, that's a really fun part of the culture as well. Mm-hmm. So if you get a chance to dig in, we won't do that in this episode, but you have a chance to dig in maybe a little bit more to the legends and the history of the Polynesians. The stories that they have that explained what they saw when they got here and how they lived here for so long and thrived. A lot of it is captured in those stories.
Yes.
So another really cool aspect to just being in Hawaii and then being surrounded by all this volcanic disruption and chaos. There's explanations for that. From the Native Hawaiians. So I just think it's really cool.
There's so much above the surface that we just all discussed that we could delve into so much more. But now we're going to take a little dive. We're going to go beneath the surface a little bit. But I could spend so much time just talking.
I know. Just look it up. Go look some stories up for reals because Hawaii is so different from any of the states in the United States.
Yeah.
It is almost like its own country.
Right.
You've left the United States as you know it.
It's the only part of the United States that's growing.
Yeah.
Which is very
as evidenced at Hawai'i Volcanoes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive deep then.
Okay, so let's dive deep. So if you still have your Google Maps or Apple Maps out or something like that, I want to encourage you to click it over to the satellite view. This view is just so cool. Google it if you need help doing that. But what's cool about this view is you can see through the water. I feel kind of like Rafiki in The Lion King after he whacks Simba on the head and makes him chase him through the jungle. Every person on the map view is like Simba. And that's not my father. That's just my reflection. And then I get to do my best Rafiki. No, look harder. As I reach out into your phone and turn on satellite view. And then boom, you can suddenly see through the water. You see, he lives in you. And now you can look through the water and see the ocean floor. And instead of just seeing this blank, big blue blob on the screen, you see this crazy amount of detail and action right there on the ocean floor. And there's a bunch of stuff that if you zoom in towards Hawaii, you'll see something special start to appear. You can see it from pretty far out. You may have already seen it, but Hawaii isn't just a green dot in the middle of a big blue blob anymore. It looks like it's part of something else. It looks like it's part of a chain of land masses that rose up out of the bottom of the ocean in an almost perfectly straight line heading northwest. A bunch of other cool stuff happens out there the further you go, but I don't know if they're all related. What I do know is that all of those land masses rising up from the bottom of the ocean in a straight line are part of the great history of Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park. And this brings us to fun fact number 3. Fun fact number 3 is that the 8 Hawaiian islands we see today are only the most recent formations in a chain of over 80 volcanoes that stretch for thousands of miles directly northwest.
I can see it.
Doesn't it look cool?
Yeah, it does look cool.
It's crazy. And as you follow that chain underwater, those are all underwater mountain volcanoes going northwest. And as you travel along that direction, you're actually traveling back in time millions of years. The further southeast you go towards Hawaii, the younger everything gets, ending with the island of Hawaii, where our national park is.
And they actually look like mountains.
They do.
That's what they are.
Yes.
You forget that when you're standing on the island. You forget that you're virtually on the top of the mountain.
Right. Interesting fact, if you go past the big island of Hawaii, there's also another little volcano out in the ocean called Loihi. And you can't really see it from the map view, and it's really not even that big, but it is related to this volcanic chain, and given a few million more years, it might also become one of the Hawaiian Islands. And so it's just amazing. And back to the big island where the national park is, this island is actually the combination of 5 volcanoes.
Mauna Loa, Kea, Kilauea. I don't know the other 2.
I don't have those names memorized.
Yeah, nobody knows those ones.
Yeah. Well, these 5 volcanoes, only one of them is considered dead or dormant. The other 4 are still very much alive. But these 5 volcanoes are what made up the big island. It's like Captain Planet. Do you remember Captain Planet growing up?
No.
You never remembered Captain Planet? Earth, fire, wind, water, and heart. Our powers combined. We are Captain Planet.
Nope.
And the song?
Nope, sorry.
Captain Planet, he's a hero. Anyways, 4 out of the 5 of these volcanoes are going to erupt again. And the ones that are within the national park do pretty frequently.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But none of this answers the question as to why are they here? Why is this chain in a straight line of 80 volcanoes and culminating in Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park? You know?
I was just going to ask that. Because after you look at it on the map, it's like, how does that happen?
Right.
Is that right on a fault line? So the earth is just open right there?
Like a crack and all the volcanoes just pop up and they crack in the gap between?
That's what it looks like?
No. The answer is
How
no.
then? That's the only thing that makes sense in my mind right now.
Okay, so that brings us to fun fact number 4. Fun fact number 4 is that all of these islands and all of these volcanoes come from what is called the Hawaiian Hotspot. Underneath Hawaii, you have the Pacific Plate. Underneath the Pacific Plate, you have a stationary plume of superheated material deep in the earth, probably about 200 miles wide, with pretty direct passageways vertically leading to the surface of the earth.
So it's not a crack in the Pacific Plate. It's just like there's just like a whole bunch of plumes coming up. It's just one?
It's one giant hot spot.
And it's moving.
Nope. It is holding still.
And the islands are moving.
And
the earth is spinning.
The Pacific Plate is the thing that moves. And so
and the hot spot is underneath the plate. Okay.
If you've got...
it's like you have a pan.
Yep. And you're moving
and you put it over the hot spot, and then when I got to make my crepe, I got to pick it up and I got to spread the batter on the pan.
Exactly.
And put it back down.
The metaphor is a little off, but but you're close. It's like
well, I know we're not picking up a pan. I'm just saying there's another thing in between the hot spot and Hawaii.
And Hawaii, yes. So as the Pacific Plate moves around, which has basically been moving, it looks like, in a straight line for a long time. As the Pacific Plate moves across this hotspot, it basically melts the material that it finds, heats it all up, and then creates these direct channels of magma, vertical channels straight up. And that's what creates all of these islands.
That's awesome.
And it's nuts. It's huge.
So it's just the Hawai'i Hotspot.
Yeah.
And as the plate moves over, then it starts creating a new island.
Correct.
And bringing the hotspot right to that spot.
Exactly. And so as the plate moves, volcanoes that were over the top of it will slowly move away from the hotspot, and that's when they become dormant.
And that's why, because if you are familiar with Hawaii, it has 2 national parks. It's got Haleakala as well, which is on Maui, which is further from the hotspot. They're not saying Haleakala is totally dormant. It is a volcano.
Right.
But they're not saying it's totally dormant. But it probably pretty much is. It's not over the hotspot anymore, which is why Mauna Loa and Kilauea on the Big Island in Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park are the active volcanoes.
Because they have a direct elevator shaft to the center of the earth.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Which is
for
so
now.
Cool. Yes. Give it more time as the Pacific Plate moves 2 inches every year or something like that, 2 to 4 inches. It'll eventually move off the hotspot.
Yeah.
But for now...
Like Haleakala has.
Correct.
So you can see that in motion, too. You can see that volcano on Maui that is no longer over the hotspot.
Correct. So that is what has created this long chain of volcanoes and mountains basically underneath the ocean surface.
But most of them you can't see. They're not tall enough.
If you don't click on satellite view, you wouldn't even know they're there.
Right.
And so it's like, even when you're on the islands of Hawaii, you can't see what really is creating everything.
Right.
Now, something super interesting about this hotspot that I found out. What they wanted to know is whether or not some of these volcanoes that are connected and making these islands, whether or not they were kind of connected. We know there's vertical shafts from this hotspot.
If they're connected horizontally.
Exactly. And so like if one burps, if one gets the hiccups. Well, they were trying to study this a little bit, and they noticed that maybe there are some connections horizontally between them. But something that they kind of stumbled upon that I couldn't get a whole lot of information on, maybe because the idea is somewhat new, is that this Hawai'i hotspot and the volcanoes right here in Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park might be able to give us a really good glimpse into what makes up the interior of like the Earth's mantle. Scientists have been trying to figure this out for a long time. We think we know what the mantle is made of, but most of the information that we have is based on speculation and seismology. They'll read what's going on after an earthquake and figure, okay, well, we know that sound waves and motion travels through this type of material at this speed. And so based on that, they can assume or infer, okay, there's probably a lot of iron down there. They can make a lot of assumptions. One scientist, though, was like, you can learn a lot from actually holding a rock in your hand. Mm-hmm. And so they're thinking the farthest we've ever drilled into the center of the Earth is 8 miles, which is still super deep. But if we were to consider the Earth an apple, that's not even through the skin of the apple yet.
Really?
Yeah. Not even close.
And but who's going to go down there? It looks really scary.
Will Ferrell, the guy that played George of the Jungle, I think.
Brendan Fraser?
Yes. There were a few guys that would go to the center of the Earth. But that being said, it is so hard to get that deep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have these Hawaii volcanoes that basically have a direct line into the Earth's mantle.
Yeah.
And so they're going to start looking at this and doing some studies. And I think there's a lot more research to be done, but the Hawaii volcanoes may play a huge part in figuring out whether or not there's like a subterranean ocean underneath the Earth's crust, or if there's this or that, or what's actually down there.
And it's crazy because sometimes I think a lot of the times when we're like planning trips to the national parks and stuff, we're thinking about what we're going to see landscape wise. Am I going to see big mountains or glaciers or bears or whatever? It's kind of, that's your mentality when you're planning trips to these parks.
Right.
I think we forget a lot of the time that these parks are, in many cases, mainly protected for research and science. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot goes on that you don't even realize is just a normal visitor when you're going to these places. And I mean, this happens to me all the time too. And I've worked as a park ranger. I've worked on the other side of it. And I still forget that the whole point of this place being protected is not because it's pretty. It's not because it's a cool place to come in and see something necessarily. That's part of it. You have to have some support because of that in order to even make a national park. But a lot of these parks are for science.
Right.
And I think Hawai'i Volcanoes is probably the perfect example of that. And I don't know like how it was formed a national park or something. We should probably find that out. That'd be pretty cool to know. I don't know how or why it was made a national park, but I just think you go there and you're looking into the crater of the most active volcano on Earth, Kilauea, right? You're looking into this crater. Sometimes you see lava, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you see steam, sometimes you don't. But you get to look into the crater of this active volcano. It's cool, but you don't think about like all the things that could be learned here.
Right. All the scientific implications.
And how it affects even you in your everyday life. Them finding something cool in Hawai'i volcanoes could translate to whatever they find.
Right.
How we make energy. How it translates to your everyday life.
Right. We might figure something geothermal out. We might be able to do a whole lot of cool stuff. We might find out if the hollow earth theory from Godzilla movies is true.
Exactly.
There's a lot that we could figure out.
I know. And how much would that affect you, John? It would be a huge deal.
If there was a hollow earth and there was giant creatures underneath, that would affect me greatly.
It would.
It would. It definitely would.
So anyway, that's on my pedestal again, the park ranger in me. That is one of the coolest things about the parks. Working for the parks, working on the other side of the parks, is getting to know all the people that are there, and they're park rangers doing research for science.
Right.
They're not just answering where the closest bathroom is.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, what was my job?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but another thing is sometimes when we visit these parks, we don't necessarily appreciate how unique what we're seeing is either.
Yeah.
And I think that goes along with a lot of the scientific aspects that you were just mentioning. But that's going to lead us into, we're going to have fun facts 5 and 6.
What?
Really quick. There's 6 fun facts. Okay. That's what we're going to talk about, how unique these are. Fun fact number 5 is that Mauna Loa is the largest active volcano on the planet.
And Mauna Loa is the cool-looking volcano that you see from various places around the island.
Yes.
The Big Island.
It's true. We talked about the 5 volcanoes that make up the Big Island of Hawaii. Mauna Loa makes up by itself more than half of the Big Island of Hawaii.
Yeah, and it's a shield volcano, so it's not super dramatic. Right. I've mentioned this before. If you don't know that it's a volcano, you might be like, oh, what's that weird-looking mountain over there? It's called a shield volcano, and it looks like an upside-down shield, or like a shield laying down on the ground.
From the bottom, or from the middle, it doesn't look super impressive. Because it's so rounded and wide, it just kind of looks like the Earth.
But the thing is, having been to Hawai'i volcanoes several times, I feel like, especially the first time for both Mauna Loa and the other one I'm sure you'll talk about here in a sec, they're not like on the surface, like, wow.
They don't look
at that volcano.
They don't look like the Cascades.
No, not at all. And they're not like super dramatic, and they're not just like foreboding. And it's not like the ones in Ecuador, or the Philippines or whatever, that's just like, boom, there it is, and here's the plume of smoke coming out of the top or anything. It's not like that. No. And so I think if you don't know what you're looking at, you could easily even miss it, which is crazy. Like you said, this volcano takes up over half of the island. Right. And you still, like, you could be driving on this volcano down along the base of it and whatnot, like as you're driving around, and not even know that you're looking at the largest active volcano in the entire world. Right. Because it just doesn't have like the prominence, I think, that we're used to seeing in movies. It doesn't have the crags
that I know you like. It doesn't have like a super visible.
It doesn't have like the blown out crater like Mount St. Helens.
Yep, exactly.
It's just a mound.
Yeah, in Native Hawaiian, Mauna Loa like means long mountain, and it is like the quintessential shield volcano with broad, rounded slopes.
Yeah.
And so it's not super showy. But let's add to that fun fact for just a second. It's the largest active volcano on the planet. It also stands 13,681 feet tall above the ocean.
Above the ocean, like from sea level to top.
Yes.
Which is like twice the prominence of the Colorado 14ers that we're used to seeing. So this mountain is almost 14,000 feet tall from sea level.
Right.
From sea level. That's crazy.
I know. Okay. But there's a few different ways that you can measure the world's tallest mountain. One is elevation above sea level. One is distance from the center of the earth. And the other is from the bottom of the ocean floor. By the way, all three of those different ways to measure the world's biggest mountain have different answers.
Mm-hmm.
From the bottom of the ocean, Mauna Loa stands 30,000 feet tall, which is taller than Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane. The weight of this giant volcanic mountain actually causes the ocean floor to bend under its weight.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
So we should count that bending towards the 30,000. I feel like
yes, exactly.
They should count from where the ocean floor would be.
Mm-hmm.
Did it not have a giant volcano on top of it?
Exactly. Now, in terms of height, we can't talk about Mauna Loa without talking about its sister volcano, Mauna Kea.
Which is just right next to it.
Right. It's about 30 miles or so northeast of Mauna Loa. It's actually not within the national park boundary.
Right. And you can drive to the top of Mauna Kea. There's an observation area up there.
Right.
Which you cannot do at Mauna Loa.
Right.
Mauna Loa, you can hike. You can drive partially.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to hike.
Right.
So if you want to go to the top of one of these volcanoes, Mauna Kea would be the easier one. It's just not in the national park.
Exactly. But because Mauna Kea is about 120 feet taller than Mauna Loa, most people talk about it being the tallest mountain in the world from the ocean's bottom all the way to the top. Mm-hmm. So from prominence, basically. But if Mauna Loa is half of the island of Hawaii, do we really think that Mauna Kea would have built itself up to that height without Mauna Loa? I don't think so.
It's on Mauna Loa. Is that what you're saying? Somewhere down there, it started piggybacking off Mauna Loa.
Oh my gosh, it's like saying you're taller than me because you're having a piggyback ride. I just don't buy it, honestly. I think that's crazy.
You don't buy it? Are you the only one who thinks this? Do scientists all say it's taller?
It's probably me.
He's like, nope, I've done exactly 5 hours of research on this, and I object.
I do. It's kind of like some of my other objections that I've had on Fun Facts episodes. Okay, but here's the deal. Let's talk about Mauna Loa and Mauna Kea for just a second. Mauna Kea hasn't erupted for about 4,500 years. Mauna Loa, on the other hand, is
erupted
90%.
In January?
Yeah. Mauna Loa, on the other hand, is 90% covered in lava flows that have erupted within the last 4,000 years.
Yeah, but it did. It just erupted end of December.
Right.
Maybe 2022.
In 2022, there were some insane eruptions from Mauna Loa.
Mauna Loa erupted and Kilauea, the other one in Hawai'i Volcanoes.
Yeah.
They were erupting at the same time, and I missed it. I'm just like so ticked off about this.
So much anger.
Yeah, you said December 2022.
Oh my gosh. It was.
You guys, that was a year and a half ago.
Yeah. It's amazing. But like I said, Mauna Kea, 4,500 years, nothing.
Yeah.
Mauna Loa, almost all of it is covered in eruptions from the last 4,000 years.
Yeah.
And so it's supremely more active. It's way bigger. It's only 120 feet taller. Mauna Loa is the real king of Asgard. I'm just saying it.
So, and it's the tallest active volcano in the world, right? That's what you said.
It's the largest active volcano.
The largest, not the tallest.
Yeah, probably because they consider...
still saying Mauna Kea is not dormant.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's pretty amazing. And if you open back up your Google Maps or your Apple Maps and turn on the satellite view and actually look at the big island and turn on like 3D mode or whatever, that giant center of the island that is black and foreboding is Mauna Loa. That thing is intense.
I see it.
But
Mauna Kea is so green.
I know.
We're going against science here.
I'm going against science. But no, it's totally crazy. But as you look at it, it looks like it erupts. You know how they called it Long Mountain? The Hawaiian Islands, they erupt differently than other volcanoes. The shield volcanoes, the lava is so much more gooey and liquidy than it is chunky.
Dude, this is your task for today. I'm giving it early, okay?
Deal.
Your task for today is to go onto Google Maps and look at the satellite of Mauna Loa, and compared to Mauna Kea especially. But holy cow, like those patterns of the lava coming down off Mauna Loa are crazy. It's like a feather.
Oh,
it's like you can see the vein where it goes across the mountain from one side to the other, kind of. Mm-hmm. And then it all just like goes down from that main vein. It just like feathers off of it.
Those veins that you're talking about, kind of like what you thought earlier about how the volcanoes created that chain, like it was the boundary or the fault line between tectonic plates. What you're talking about, that vein is called a rift zone.
Yeah.
And so the way that these Hawaiian volcanoes erupt, you will get some out of the top of the caldera and the crater and everything. But these mountains underneath the surface, they're creating their own lava tubes and using them and transporting their lava horizontally, which come out at different places like those rift zones that you're seeing.
You have to look at this. And also, when the volcano erupts, and Hawai'i Volcanoes will like put something on their website saying Mauna Loa is erupting, and it will tell you which rift zone the lava is coming from.
Yes.
So you get used to that vernacular a little bit as you're like looking closer. It'll be like the East Rift Zone, which is the one that's been doing stuff, I feel like, lately.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see it on satellite, though. So that's your task for this episode. You got to go do this, because otherwise you're not going to be as excited about it as we are.
I know. I don't often use like visuals and tell you to look at the maps, but honestly, you can see all of this happening. Yeah. You can look at it and be like, oh my gosh, look at all of that pouring out of the Hawai'i Volcano Hotspot. It's just vertically shooting up through these vertical shafts, going through these horizontal tubes and coming out all over the island.
All over. And what's funny too is like when they build houses and stuff, like they'll pay attention, obviously, to like these rift zones, and they'll build kind of in between. Right. I would say, like I said, like in Kona, like you can kind of see it where it's like there's like a huge lava flow right there. Mm-hmm. And then people build their houses like there you go. Yeah. And I think it's because they have been able to study like the tubes underneath these lava tubes and kind of where they're going to shoot out most likely.
Right. Most likely. Oh my gosh, Gollum's song. Oh my gosh, it just suddenly you build the house and then you have this haunting feeling every night you go to sleep.
I seriously would always feel like that. Yeah. Some people don't have that like level of risk aversion. I have very strong risk aversion.
Right.
It'd be like, no, I would be looking over my shoulder all the time. Like, when's it going to blow? When am I going to die of lava?
Ash is walking out to the garden with a thermometer, testing the temperature on the ground. The tomatoes are 5 degrees warmer than yesterday. We got to get out of here.
I'm telling you, it is crazy. I don't notice it as much in Hilo, I think because there's too many trees.
Right.
But Kona, it's like, dude, why did they build their house right there? Are they insane? And it's just like, I mean, I think the scientists do have a pretty good idea of where the lava will come when it comes.
Right.
Not to say they couldn't be wrong. I mean, they have pictures on the website. The Chain of Craters Road just totally, and the Chain of Craters Road is in Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park, but totally covered in lava flow. So they're wrong sometimes, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Things happen. The lava flows where it's going to flow. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. But you got to look at that satellite view because that just it does not look like a regular volcano. I think it gives you a lot of appreciation for what this volcano actually is and what it does and how powerful it is and how different it is from a lot of the volcanoes we're used to seeing on movies and books and all that. So
yes, and they do fully anticipate it to continue erupting. And if you get on the national park website for both Mauna Loa and the one we're going to talk about in just a minute, you can get on and see videos, pictures. You can witness the amazing power of these volcanoes and watch it for yourself and listen to the sounds of lava going across the ground. It's
so
absolutely cool.
One more thing.
Yes.
That 2022 eruption, it did get close to some houses.
Yeah.
It got real close. They had to evacuate people out and stuff. It might have even gotten some. I don't remember. I just remember them being like, it's going to hit this neighborhood. And I'm like, Why?
I know, right? Seriously. I started out saying that you shouldn't have that feeling of Gollum song, but the more we talk about it, it's more like healthy amount is good.
Gotta keep your eye behind you a little bit.
Yes, exactly. One eye on the fun, one eye on the beach, and one eye on the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked a lot about Mauna Loa, the largest active volcano on the planet. Fun fact number 6 is that Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park is also home to the most active volcano on planet Earth.
The most active.
Kilauea.
Can you even comprehend that you can see the largest active volcano and the most active volcano in the same national park?
Right. 90% of Mauna Loa is covered in eruptions for the last 4,000 years. Kilauea is 90% covered by lava flows from the last 1,000 years.
It's so crazy, dude.
And it is said to be the home of Pele.
Yes, that's who I was talking about.
Yes, who is the god of volcanoes, who has limitless power, who is the goddess of...
She's a woman. She's got some anger.
Yes. So if you watch Moana, that lava monster that they depict at the end of the movie that also turns into this beautiful goddess that is also the power of creation. That's exactly how they view Pele.
Yes.
Destructive and creative power.
There's a lot of anger under the surface.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty on par. That tracks. At least with myself as a woman.
Yes, as a creative and destructive power. Oh my gosh. But yes, Pele is said to have her ancestral home inside Kilauea. And it's absolutely insane. This volcano, basically it says that it has been in a state of constant eruption for almost 200 years.
The crazy thing about this, like we mentioned, is it doesn't look like your typical volcano.
No.
I remember going to this park for the first time and being really confused. Because I was like, wait, what am I looking at here?
Right.
Because it doesn't look like a volcano. Like when you go to see Kilauea, you're just along the main park road. It's not like you're driving up this big mountain road to get to the top and look down in it. Like you're just on the regular park road and you get to this parking lot, you get out, you walk out and you see a big hole in the ground and you're like, wait, this is the volcano?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's because Kilauea, much in my opinion, like Mauna Kea, is built on the foothills of Mauna Loa. And so you basically go up Mauna Loa, halfway up you're at Mauna Kea, and you don't realize they're separate volcanoes. It's just that one is leaning up against the other. And so that's why you kind of wonder, you're like, wait a second.
What am I looking at here? That's like the feeling that I had. I remember really well the first time we went to Hawai'i Volcanoes because I was so excited to go to this park. Yeah, I remember getting there and I hadn't done enough research really in advance. It was just like, we're in Hawaii, yes. And I just remember looking into Kilauea and being like, I didn't even realize it was the most active volcano in the world.
Right.
That first trip.
Right.
Which, what a waste.
I know.
Right? But a lot of people, I think, don't actually know what they're looking at when they get there, which is why these episodes are so fun for us.
Right.
But so you're just standing there, you're looking down, you're looking into this crater. Like I said, may or may not have lava, may or may not have steam, but that's Kilauea.
Right.
And it doesn't really look like a mountain. It's there. And sometimes it can look like a mountain depending on where you're at. But just don't be underwhelmed by it. Like, that is the volcano that you're coming to see.
Right.
Pretty much.
That volcano is the one with
the direct shaft
my gosh.
the middle of the earth.
Those elevators that you go on in Las Vegas with the super tall buildings, or like the Empire State Building that have a direct line. Those elevators go super duper fast. That's what's happening in Kilauea.
Yeah.
The largest, most trafficked elevator shaft that takes you down. But one thing I want to point out, this is just a 3-year story of Kilauea, is absolutely insane to me. So we went first 10 years ago or something like that was our first trip. We've had many since. But the first time we were there, we were able to see the Jagger Museum, and the crater at that time was a certain amount of size.
It wasn't super big.
It wasn't super huge.
It wasn't small.
You could look out and you could see a crater several hundred feet wide, a few hundred feet deep. It was pretty cool. It was smoking a little bit. In 2018, there was a massive eruption, and the rift zones off to the side, those subterranean tunnels, erupted a little bit inside the crater in Kilauea. But then a lot of the subterranean tunnels took that lava horizontal to the rift zones, probably like to the Chain of Craters Road and stuff like that. Well, as a lot of the pressure inside the volcano started to drain away from that main crater, it took a lot of the lava that was there and displaced it and took it somewhere else. That left a giant gap inside the Kilauea crater. After all of that happened, that crater collapsed. Giant collapse.
Boy, did it.
Oh my gosh. And like there were earthquakes, tons of stuff happened. The Jagger Museum is no longer safe to visit. Lots of crap happened all at once. The crater that we saw that was relatively small at least tripled in size.
It did. And when we went back after that eruption and we went and saw it, it was just like, this doesn't even look the same.
No.
It doesn't even look close to the same.
Right.
And you can't even drive the whole road anymore.
Right.
Because the road is like precariously perched along the edge of the crater now, where before it was a relatively safe distance away. That's crazy. It was like, we went and looked at it and there was no lava and there's no steam.
Mm-hmm.
It was not erupting when we were there after that eruption, but we went there and we were just both like, phew,
you know,
holy smoke.
They have pictures before and after so you can see what the crater changed to. So that was 2018. In 2019, now that we have this new giant crater, now that all the lava has drained away, like the lava is further down now than normal. Mm-hmm. And so in 2019, something completely unique within the park's history happened. Within that crater, a lake developed.
Of water.
A lake of water.
Yeah.
Yes, a 160-foot deep lake. But what's so crazy is that, yes, the lava wasn't there, but like that lake got up to temperatures of 80 degrees Celsius. I don't know why they told us that on the NPS. We're America, dang it.
What is that?
But
80 degrees Celsius, that's like
176 degrees. That lake was like
I can't even do the conversion. Oh my gosh.
I know, exactly. But that lake reached temperatures of like 176 degrees Fahrenheit. And like, but they could still see like there was some type of water that kept pumping into it and everything like that. And so the water level stayed fairly level for a while. You also see it turning and changing colors and boiling away. So that in 2020, the lake is gone. Mm-hmm. So the lake was only there for a year. And in its place, in 2020, the magma returns.
Yes.
And so in 2020, the lake, it's boiled all the way off by this point, and then we get a lava lake 600 feet deep.
Oh my gosh.
That is like exactly what you're imagining in every lava situation ever. You're like, oh my gosh, a lava lake. You've got like the hard lava on the top and like red cracks, and you can see the red light emanating out of different hot spots and things like that's Kilauea 2020. And that lava lake returns every once in a while still now.
No, I need to see that.
It's so cool.
We went and they're like, oh, sorry, it just crusted all the way over 3 days ago.
I know. And so you'll still have these fluctuations within Kilauea, but this volcano is going nowhere. It is still alive, and it will pop its head up whenever it wants to. Rift zones here and there, the lava lake, you'll see eruptions pretty frequently. And if you jump onto Kilauea, there's a whole section on just Kilauea eruptions. You can go and it's like 2018, 2020, whatever. And then it goes back like every almost like 4 years or less. And it's just like you can see all these documented videos and pictures of how active and how violent and how amazing these eruptions can all be. It totally validates the idea that Pele, this destructive and creative force, exists within Kilauea.
Yeah, because this volcano is growing the island of Hawaii.
Oh, definitely.
That's what's crazy about it. Every time you see this lava come out, it's building up the island. When it goes down into the ocean, it's building up the island from underneath. It's just, you're seeing destruction, but you're seeing creation at the same time. And I think that's what's so humbling about being in this national park and seeing these forces at work or not.
Right.
You can see evidence of it everywhere, whether or not the volcano is actually doing something on the surface.
Yep.
Which is why we keep going back, because it's like, yeah, I'm kind of bitter about not being able to see the eruption and stuff, but it's like, it's crazy when you get there and you just, like, you're driving the Chain of Craters Road and you're just seeing these lava flows everywhere.
Right.
All around you, you can see where the lava went and the way that it traveled and everything. And it's just like, where else do you get to drive right next to a lava flow that's like so obvious?
We've been to a lot of national parks, and a lot of them are basically the same every time you go.
Mm-hmm.
This national park, we have had the exact opposite experience.
It's different every single time.
Yeah.
Totally different.
There's always a reason to go back.
Yeah.
Especially,
well, and it's Hawaii. So Hawaii always gives you a reason to go back.
Exactly. And so with like the largest active volcano and the most active volcano on Earth, if you love volcanoes, this is the place to go.
Yeah.
You need to make it here. And yes, the task for today was looking up the satellite image on Google Maps and taking a look just to kind of get a bird's eye perspective of what's actually happening here. But there's nothing like walking on a lava flow. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
This park is so incredible. I hope that you have a greater appreciation for what you're going to see, whether you've been there or not. You know, I just, like I mentioned, I wish I would have known this stuff before we went the first time.
Right.
Because it can be a little bit like, so what is this?
Right. Exactly.
What am I looking at? I don't understand. And so hopefully this episode was really helpful for you. We're so grateful for you. Thank you for listening. Please leave us a 5-star review if you're loving it. That helps us spread the word about all these national parks and helps us get that information to people who will then in turn fall in love with these parks and take better care of them too. So it's really important to us that we just like help you love these places so that you'll want to take care of them and treasure them the way that we do. Anyway, thank you for listening. We hope that you love Hawai'i Volcanoes National Park, and don't forget to get some dirt in your shoes.